Hello class, this lecture will cover the importance of using evaluation within your prevention programs. This video lecture will be very important for the module you will do and the project you'll do on prevention planning because it will talk about using a logical model, which is a part in your prevention program planning that you need to understand and be able to utilize. Evaluation is important because it tells us what works, what doesn't work, and what we need to improve on or how to improve it. So a common evaluation tool is using the logical model. A logical model is a description of what a program is expected to achieve and how it is expected to work. It is a map linking together project goals, activities, services, and assumptions. The benefits of using a logical model include that it helps develop an understanding of your program. It allows you to monitor the progress. It provides an evaluation framework, and it exposes any assumptions of the project that might be hindering the progress. It also attempts to prevent or overpromising, and it promotes communication within the organization. This is an example of a blank logical model, which there will be this page provided to you in the module that will help you with your prevention planning project. As the reader describes, in order to design a logical model, there are 6 goals to attend to. Then you would put together evaluation questions for each of those goals, and then the methods and sources for each section. There is an example design located in this module for you to look at. In Section 4, or Section D, you will be working on what you expect from your activities, which will then lead to your program goal. And so this is often used with if-then statements. For example, if the program invests time and money to develop an inventory of drug-free activities, then youth will have more opportunities within the community. If youth know what is available, then they are more likely to participate. If youth participate in alternative activities, then they are more likely to develop friendships with non-using peers and then be less likely to use alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs themselves. So it's important to understand the outcomes and impacts of your program. This is the last 2 sections in the logical model, and they discuss both the short-term and the long-term outcomes. A few important things to consider when determining an outcome is there are no right number of outcomes, so there's not a specific number that you need in order to have. And this will depend on your goals and your program activities. The more immediate the outcome is, the more influence the program has. And the longer term the outcome has, the less direct influence on the program's achievement. Because other forces affect an outcome doesn't mean it shouldn't be included. So when you're deciding what interventions to use, just because it doesn't affect an outcome doesn't mean that it's not an important component of your prevention program. Long-term impacts shouldn't go beyond the program's purpose or target audience. So you don't want to include something that's long-term that isn't a main part of your program. Otherwise, you're possibly wasting resources. And don't confuse outcomes with outputs. For example, client hours served or hours served or the hour services provided doesn't necessarily represent the outcome of your prevention program. This is just how often your program was conducted and is an output versus how it's actually affected or the outcomes of the program. Once you've created a logical model for your program, use it to plan your evaluation and review and update it regularly. Here are some of the questions to consider when developing your evaluation plan. What in your program is going to be evaluated? Is it the number of media ads? Is it how many parents attended your workshop? Or how many students stayed tobacco-free until they were 18? What is it that you're wanting to evaluate? What will you do with is this information something you're going to provide to society to show the effects? Is it something you're going to talk about with your stakeholders? You want to know what you're going to be doing with this information. You also need to know who wants to know the information about the evaluation. Does your funding sources need it in order to continue funding your program? Or is it to produce a policy change changing a law? Who needs to know this information? When do you need this information? This can be very important for those who are funding your prevention program because they might give you a time limit. And so you need to know when you need to know this information in order to establish the evaluation at the correct time. What resources do you have available for this evaluation, and what is it going to cost you? Is it going to cost you time? Is it going to cost you money? Or are you going to have to hire specific people in order to evaluate? One caution is that outcome or impact evaluations that focus only on program effects are dangerous. They need to focus on internal program and external program outcomes. So when should you know that you need to hire an evaluation consultant or a contractor? Your program may also need an outside evaluation consultant or contractor, and here are some of the situations in which you may want to consider using an outside evaluator. When the evaluation desired requires more time than your program staff can give, so being able to hire that consultant or contractor to do the evaluation when your staff is already busy promoting and conducting the prevention program. Another reason would be if your program is under fire from outside entities. So if your other prevention programs don't think that it's useful, you might want to use an evaluation contractor in order to, because they'll be the professionals to help you make sure that you're doing it correctly. Another reason for hiring a consultant or contractor is if you need statistical assistance in analyzing the data. This might be very important if your organization is mainly focused on actually with the population and being applied and doesn't understand the statistical analysis of evaluation and assessment. If you need help designing a questionnaire, survey, or other data collection instruments, this would also be a good time to hire an consultant or contractor. And another reason is if there are major disagreements on the focus of the evaluation within your organization. This might also come up if your stakeholders or funding sources have a different idea of what evaluation they want that is different than the program's organization, the prevention program's organization's evaluation importance. All of these have to be weighed with the pros and cons about using an internal evaluator versus an external evaluator. And some of these pros and cons are talked about in your reader. So go back through your reader and make sure that you understand the importance of hiring an outside consultant or contractor, because this might be something that you need to focus on when you're designing your own prevention program plan in the project later this semester.